Welcome to the No Streetlights podcast. I'm Brittany.
And I'm Nicole. We'll be engaging in vulnerable conversations every Friday to shine a light on what we've been through,
How it changed us and what we learned. We want to encourage societal growth towards kindness through understanding.
These conversations and the associated language can be triggering.
Listen at your own discretion.
But please reach out if we need to be doing something better.
So let's take a breath, relax, and be welcome. Welcome to our Christmas Crisis special. We want to embrace a season of giving by bringing you a special gift. Us.
So we have with us your usual hosts, but they are our guests. Crisis indeed. So please welcome Aaron and Tim.
Woo!
Wife A and wife B.
Woo!
Hello. Thank you for having us on No Streetlights podcast. I've heard that this place is making waves.
You said my name earlier.
I did. It's always weird.
So, this is something that we have been talking about for a while. Having you two take over the podcast, kind of cool.
Thanks, we are pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
How does it feel to sit behind the rig?
Sitting on the chair of Tim from No Streetlights podcast. Wow, I can smell your fart everywhere. This is crazy.
That's fair. I do fart in that chair a lot.
Yeah, how about you, Aaron? How are you feeling today?
Good. I'm excited to see what you guys do with your podcast. I'm really super excited.
Yay.
Yay.
You guys have heard everything about Aaron and Tim and their perspective on how they met us. So we definitely want to kind of go into our perspective on how we met them. Britt, do you want to tell your nice little story?
Sure. So I was on set, and a friend of mine called me over and told me they knew a guy that looked like Joe Jonas. And I was like, what's his Instagram? And so they showed me, and I immediately said, tell him everything about me. I am single. And at this time, I wasn't really looking for a relationship. It was more, want to just talk to somebody, flirt a bit, have fun, nothing too serious. And when they told me that he lives in Italy, I didn't really mind. I'm like, okay, good. There's that distance. I can just chat a bit, nothing too crazy. And so I followed him on Instagram first. And then he followed me back, and I was waiting a whole day for him to just slide in my DMs because he told our friend that I was pretty. So I'm like, okay, so why isn't he saying hello? After a day, I'm like, you know what? He's too fine. I gotta do something. So I slid in his DMs and said, hey. That was it, just a hey. And he responded back.
There was no emoji, no nothing. I think there was an exclamation mark. So it was more like, hey. And I was like, oh, hello.
With one Y, or were there two or three?
There's definitely one.
No, just one Y.
One
Yeah,
Y.
she doesn't mess around with that.
She said, we're going to get to the point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just grabbed you by your wrist as you walked by. Hey.
That's how it happened.
I think Nuck If You Buck was playing in the background, and I really thought I was about to get my ass beat.
It's exciting times.
I had just moved to Italy. I think I was in Italy for a whopping 2 weeks at that point, if that even. So, I was still living in a hotel. My life was not anywhere near put together. So whenever my friend had messaged me, it was like, hey, message this girl. She's waiting on you and blah, blah, blah. I was like, this is too good to be true. I don't deserve something like that. I'm not going to message them. I'm not going to message her. I was in a completely different headspace back then, but it ended up working out in the end.
Did you guys ever think that you were being catfished? I know you had a mutual friend, but were you guys ever like, hey, these pictures aren't real? I don't know.
I was told that he was real and that he was pretty short. And I didn't mind. I was like, it's not like we're going to date or anything. It's not like we're going to get married. Well. But yeah, there was times where I was actually really scared. So after maybe a week of just texting, I asked him if he wanted to FaceTime because I wanted to make sure he wasn't a fake. I wanted to make sure he wasn't who he was on Instagram.
Yeah, I think I kind of went through a similar thing. My big thing for Aaron was hearing his voice. Like, I don't know what it was. I just really wanted to hear what he sounded like. And then when I finally did, I was like, oh, I like that voice. That's a good voice.
I wasn't really that worried about it because we FaceTimed a lot. I was never really big on FaceTiming ever, but with her, I didn't mind. I learned to love FaceTime so that we could communicate and be a part of each other's lives, even though the distance was so great.
Because we met during COVID time. So there was no way he could fly to me or I could fly to him. It was pretty much only dating via phone for 11 months straight. And everyone had doubts, but there was just a part of me that was like, no, there's something happening here and I really want to wait this out.
So as soon as the flight restrictions got lifted, you went over to meet him in Italy.
Yeah, that was a risky move.
And you booked a flight for like 3 months immediately.
I did 3 months to be with a man I have never met in person before. And after a month of being there, we got married.
I'm glad you're on this podcast and not Crime Junkies.
Yeah, that's very fair. I will say, though, we were dating for 11 months. At this point, we were dating for 11 months and we had known each other for well over a year. We were fairly certain we would be able to make that work for the full 90 days that she was permitted to be in the EU. And worst case scenario, if something did happen and she wanted to go home early or whatever, we would figure it out. So I was fully under the impression that we were going to be able to make it work pretty well. And I'm sure she had the same thought. We knew each other pretty good. We just hadn't had that physical relationship yet. And she still thought I was like 5'4".
That's an interesting difference compared to us because we had spent so much time together. And so when we moved in together, we also had that exfiltration plan. If this sucks, I have a truck and a camper. I can get back on the road.
What was it like meeting each other at the airport? Like, were you guys nervous?
Oh my God. The main thing I was nervous about wasn't meeting him. It was if they would turn me away because of COVID. Because of the restrictions on all the paperwork I needed to bring. I needed to show his orders. I needed to show where I lived, where he lives. It was just everything. And I had to show that for every layover. And I had 2 layovers. So each layover, I thought they would just turn me away. But luckily, so once I finally landed in Rome, I only needed to fill out 1 paper. And when I gave it to them, they didn't even look at it. They just collected and said, okay, thank you. And I'm like, oh God, it's time.
This is happening.
It's happening. I'm going to see him. I'm like, where's my short king? Where are you? But when I walked out and I saw him, I'm like, damn, he's tall.
She was like walking out, looking down at my feet. And I didn't know that she didn't actually think I was 5'9". I was like, what is she looking at? I'm like, hello. I got like a whole dozen roses. I think it was actually like a baker's dozen, 1 extra. And I was like, hello, like waving. And she eventually looks up and she's like shocked. She didn't expect to see me there. But now I know it's because she didn't expect to be looking up at me.
It's all about love. All about love, baby.
So much love. I do feel like we've kind of gotten a very good introduction to Britt and I and how we had met.
Yes.
Nicole, what about you and Aaron? What's your perspective of how you guys met?
Oh boy. We also met through our COVID times. I was on vacation in North Carolina. Me and my friends were like, let's get a house. I was a little tipsy wasted and I was swiping left and right on Tinder, just trying to see if I could meet anybody that's local. I think I did like 100-mile radius and I saw Aaron's profile. The picture that he had, I really liked. He had a really nice smile. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. He's really cute. And then I was looking through his photos, and he also had a picture of him hiking in like Arizona on top of a mountain. And the way that it was sloped, he looked so short. So I also thought I had a short king moment. And I was like, all right, well, here we go. I like his smile. Didn't read his bio. I was like, he's cute. Let's see if I can meet him. He was like, hey, I'm in Virginia Beach. And I was like, hey, I'm in North Carolina. You want to come over to the house? Like, I got a whole house here. He's like, COVID, I have to stay in Virginia. I can't leave the state. I was like, oh, that sucks. Guess we won't see each other or meet each other ever again. Bye. and just completely wrote it off and was like, this isn't going to happen. We had each other on Snapchat, and we had like a couple conversations and like exchanged photos. And we're like, oh, how are you doing? I'm like, whatever, man, I don't care. And I posted that I had a 4-day weekend, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I've got 4 days off. Like, I should go and do something. Does anybody have planned? You know, who can I meet up with? And he snapped me and was like, hey, you should just come to Virginia Beach. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? This is not sketchy by any means. Never actually talked to the guy. We just exchanged photos, heard his voice once. Whatever, let's figure it out. So I drove 3.5 hours to Virginia Beach, and we met at the sketchiest motel. So sketchy. It was
I was
so
legitimately
weird.
scared the whole time I was there.
I wanted something casual too. You know, I didn't want a relationship at the time. And I'm waiting for him, and I see him, just this bald guy, a little pasty. Just a little
Pasty.
very white and this very
I'm a glowing man.
yeah. I was like, oh, he's not as short as I thought he was, so this will be fun. And he had a Dragon Ball Z backpack on. I was like, oh, nice. He's pretty fucking cool.
Hell yeah.
He gets to the hotel room, and we go in. We're kind of just putting all of our stuff down, and he goes to lock the door because sketchy motel. He turns around, looks at me, and is like, so how do you feel about guns? And I'm like, what? I'm sorry. Do you have one? He's like, yes. This is what I do for a living. Don't panic. This is a very scary area. I was like, wow, well, I guess I'm going to die. Thank you.
He said, don't panic after he locks the door and asks you about guns. Don't panic, though.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to put it in this drawer just so you know. Okay.
I think the part that I find the funniest about that is he says, this is what I do for a living, and then doesn't elaborate beyond locking a door in a motel and asking you about, you just go to motels with guns? Like, that's your job, right? Okay. That's what my brain would immediately go to. I'd be like, okay, what the?
It was a terrifying moment for me. But I was like, you know what? If I get murdered today, I get murdered today. My friends know where I'm at. So
More exciting for her.
I was a risk taker. I definitely was.
Was? Or
I'm a little more
She's a risk
cautious
taker
now.
if she's driving. If she's the passenger, she's terrified.
This is true. I am a little terrified if I'm in the passenger seat.
fair. So you guys meet at the hotel. Aaron shows you his gun.
Yeah.
But you said you were just looking for something casual. So how did you get married? How does that happen?
Well, after I showed her, may I?
Yeah.
After I showed her my gun, she had a newfound respect for me as a firearms instructor. We went out to have supper together because we were very hungry by that point. And so we started talking. I don't talk about idle things most of the time. So I was talking about how I wanted to get fixed because everyone in my family had had cancer, and like I deal with depression and some other things, and everyone in my family does too. So I was like, I kind of want to get fixed, and I want to adopt or foster instead of having biological kids. And she was like, he's got a gun and a heart. Yep. I could probably make this work. And I saw that happen in her eyes. And I was like, all right, cool. I don't have to worry about dating anymore.
I was attached to him during that dinner. I was cradling his arm as hard as I could. I was like, I am never letting him go.
Aww.
So that's kind of...
That's so cute, though.
And here we are 3 years later.
I was still convinced that we wouldn't get married, that this was still a casual thing, because he had plans. When he got out of the military, he was going to be a vagabond with his dog and go off and explore the world. So it was just going to be a casual thing until he left. And then we went to West Virginia. I think it was Christmas. I bought you a whole bunch of stuff for your trip. I was like, if he leaves, one thing I'm going to do is make sure he remembers me throughout his whole trip. So I bought him so many gifts, and like
They were way too nice. Like, I did not deserve these gifts at all.
Yeah, I got him like a monogrammed notebook and a sextant and just a ton of stuff.
The leather-bound journal I used at our wedding, that was the first gift she ever gave me.
Aww.
Like with the gold
So
lettering and
sweet.
stuff. That's, yeah. We weren't at wedding level gifts yet, but she got me wedding level shit.
I just wanted you to
So
remember me,
cute.
babe.
I haven't forgotten you.
That's so cute. It was like before you met him, you already knew he was looking for a relationship. And you already knew that before going to Mattel? It was already afterwards.
So I skipped his bio, and his bio was basically, I'm looking for my wife or some friends, whatever. And
Yeah.
I didn't see that until after we met at the motel, and I was like, fuck. He wants a wife. He wants us to be serious. I don't know if I can do that. So I just carried on like it was a casual thing, especially because he was leaving.
Yeah.
We see how that went.
When did you realize you wanted to actually be in a relationship with him?
I had a conversation with my boss, and I was like, hey, I don't know. I really like this guy. He's the only guy that I'm really talking to right now, but I'm not here for a serious relationship. And she was like, if you're not looking for a serious relationship and you really like him, just have fun, see how it goes. And so we did. He would come up to Northern Virginia to come see me on one weekend, and then I would go down to Virginia Beach another weekend, and we just kind of exchanged that way. And then one day, he just like randomly was like, yeah, so you're my girlfriend. I was like, what? I am?
I think I said that she was my girlfriend in a story that I was telling.
Yeah.
And she was like, wait, you can't just say that normally. I think we got to go back.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I mean, I like that idea. So then we started dating.
I just defined the word, and that was something Damon did for me, actually. I was like, yeah, I really like this girl, blah, blah, blah. And he went, do you think she's seeing other people? And I went, no. And he said, do you think you'd be upset if she saw other people? And I said, I'd be pretty sad. He said, okay. Are you talking to other people? No. Would she be upset if you talked to other people? Probably. Okay, well, then you guys are dating. That means you're her boyfriend and she's your girlfriend. Well, thank you for clarifying that. I didn't know that that was the definition until just now.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I was like, hey, I didn't know this until now, but we're dating, apparently.
A lot of our relationship has just been me like going with the flow of it all, and Aaron saying, this is what we're doing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I like that idea. Let's go ahead and try that out. I'm a little scared about it, but yeah, let's give it a go.
Just having a little crisis.
Maybe it'll work.
Yeah. Little crisis here and there every single step.
Him like calmly guiding you, and you're like, no, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Actually, now that you put it that way.
Hey, we don't like being apart, so maybe we should live together. What if we don't like it? We've loved every second of being together every day. But what if it turns awful all of a sudden? We'll deal with that. I'll leave. You can have whatever. All right, we can try it.
What if you got married?
I think there's definitely a story about how Britt and I started officially declaring ourselves as boyfriend and girlfriend.
Mhm.
Maybe you want to tell that story?
So I'm someone who always needs answers. I hate guessing games. I want to know where we're at, how do we get here, and are we okay? We were only texting and calling. We weren't dating yet. But it was obvious that we liked each other. So I asked, so what are we? Are we just talking or are we dating? And then he says, what are your thoughts on long distance? And I said, I don't know. Give me a day to think about this. It wasn't even like a whole day. I think like after 2 hours, I was like, you know what? I'm good with it. And he's like, okay. Do you want to be my girlfriend? I'm like, yeah, I do. I mean, that's how I remember it. How do you remember it?
I remember it exactly like that, except from my perspective, when I was like, hey, how do you feel about long distance? And you were like, I don't know. I have to think about it. And I was like, oh, she's never messaging me ever again. That was it. That was it. All I had to do was actually put a label to it and she was gone.
scared
That was
her.
what happened. I showed my hand and she did not call. Yeah, no, she did message me back very quickly. I don't even think it was 2 hours. I think it was within an hour.
We'll just say 2 hours for the listeners.
I'm pretty sure I was sitting there listening to an episode of Game Nights, and I was about halfway through the episode when she messaged me and was like, yeah, so I'm good with long distance. And I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, Jimmy Wong better win this game. So yeah, there was definitely that. But the thing that I remember the most about us being like, okay, cool, we're dating. I was like, cool, we're boyfriend and girlfriend now. And she was like, well, you have to talk to my parents first.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to what? At this point, I have not talked to her parents.
Forgot that she had parents or what?
She's Batman.
No, I hadn't talked to them yet. I knew that she had parents. I saw the photos and everything, beautiful family and everything. She was like, you have to talk to them. Like, they have to know who you are so that this way, you know, we can officially declare ourselves as boyfriend and girlfriend. And I was terrified. No, not terrified. I won't say I was terrified, but I was definitely like, I was antsy about it because I was like, wow, like, you know, how do I explain to them that I feel like I could be a positive impact or bring some positivity to your daughter's life, even though I'm 6,000 miles across the world? We FaceTime and she says, okay, my dad's awake. You can talk to him. Now, in my mind, the dad is usually the one that's the most terrifying. So I had to get ready, mentally prepare myself, and I talked to him. And he's chill as a cucumber. I don't know if that's a phrase that people have ever used to describe my father-in-law, but he was chill as a cucumber. He was all about it, just like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. We're making breakfast. Brittany wants you to come out and visit us, and you know, we want you to come out and visit us too, so we can get to know you. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. And he was like, okay, here's my daughter back. And I was like, wow, that's it. And she was like, oh yeah, no, my dad is like super chill. The one you have to be worried about is my mom. She'll be up in a few hours. So I just had to stew on it. She tells me she's the terrifying one. Be ready. She'll be awake in a couple hours.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm on my tiptoes. And then I finally get to sit down and her mom goes, what did she say exactly, babe? Do you remember?
No, I just remember her tone, her face.
Yeah,
I was scared.
She had the mama bear. She had the exact question that I thought my father-in-law was going to ask. And she goes, what makes you think that you would be good for my daughter being all the way in Italy? And I was like, well, and then I talked about it. It was something along the lines of like, we make each other happy, or we're very happy when we talk to each other. We have a lot of the same interests. I feel as though, you know, I can help motivate and inspire your daughter as she steps forward to be on her path of active duty. Because at this time, Brittany was also she wanted to join and enlist in the Air Force. So, you know, that was still a thing that was going on. And then she asks, how do I know if you're a good person? And I was like, that's a good question. Am I a good person? Because I don't know if I'm a good person, but I can tell you what I do for a living, and you can decide if the choices I have made that brought me to this point at least show that I'm providing some kind of positivity to the world. And I told her about my job and what I do and what I have done in the past and things like that. And she seemed very satisfied with that. And the entire time I did not break eye contact with her. That is something that to this day, she will not let me forget. She said, that's what sold me. She was like, you did not hide your face. You made direct eye contact the entire time I was talking to you. No matter what I asked, you did not falter. She was like, and that's how I knew you were serious about wanting to be with my daughter. And I was like,
She told that story to so many people. Even to this day, she'll be like, yeah, my son-in-law, when I first spoke to him, he was so cute. I'm like, yeah, he was.
I remember that. I remember her speech during your guys' wedding, and I was like, oh, I guess it's your first time really experiencing a Filipino family, Tim, is it's never the dad that you worry about. It's always the mom. Because my mom's the same
Absolutely.
way.
I know that now.
There's a lesson both of us have learned.
Yep.
Moms are scary.
Extremely.
Moms are terrifying.
I'm still scared. At this age, yeah, no, always scared. So we talked about the story of how we met you guys and how you guys asked us to be your girlfriends. So let's talk about how you asked us to marry you. Who wants to start first? Aaron?
I don't mind starting. As we stated, I was looking for my wife, and Nicole isn't who I would normally date, and I'm not who she would normally date. So we were both like, well, we'll just see what happens. And we just kept being spontaneous in each moment. And that kind of allowed us to be our authentic selves. I kept loving who she was being, and she kept loving who I was being. So we realized that, we could make it work through conscious effort and that there was huge potential for growth there. I just took it step by step. We were dating. It was great. We got into a committed relationship. It was great. We moved in together. It was great. Well, what's next is we start making our lives one life. Once I realized that it was still bringing me abundant happiness, that it was worth investing in.
That is beautiful.
So precious.
Nicole, is that how you see it?
I was panicking the entire time.
That's good. Okay. So it was a crisis the entire time.
I've never thought I was going to get married. I've had conversations previously, and it never seemed like a thing that I wanted to do, because then I'd be tied down. I'd have to be with this person forever. And what if I don't like them after a year or two? Then I have to get unmarried, and that's just a lot of work. And I don't like doing work. Aaron made it very easy, and our relationship has been just incredibly positive since we've been together. The conflict that we had in the beginning was so small, and when we did have something huge, we were always able to communicate about it and be patient with each other. At the end of the day, it seemed like a really great thing, and that I could do it for the rest of my life. And then we got married.
Oh.
So cute. I kind of fall more in your area, Nicole. I never thought I would get married. I didn't think I was deserving of love. In fact, I didn't think I was going to live much longer anyway. I was so focused on drowning my depressions with alcohol that the concept of getting into an actual committed relationship and having a future and having another person there with me throughout all my trials and tribulations, I, in my mind, had so much baggage that I was not worth it to anybody else to actually want to carry that around. I spiraled and never thought I would ever get married. And then along comes Brittany. After 6 months or so, I started realizing, 6 months into our long distance relationship, I started realizing, I was like, this is real. We have hit every wicket every major relationship has, except we don't have the opportunity to physically hold each other. But we still go on movie dates. We do FaceTime movie dates. I mean, we did all kinds of different dates too. Like we cooked food together on a date and told each other what the food tasted like. It was so funny. We made pie together. That was another thing we did. We FaceTimed all the time. We communicated. We were very well involved into each other's personal lives. And long story short, I realized that I was officially in the longest relationship I'd ever been in. After 6 months, I was like, wow, the longest consecutive relationship I'd ever been in. And I told her that, and she was like, well, get ready because you got a very long time with me going ahead. And I was like, damn. And by the time she flew out here, I had already started thinking about how I wanted to ask her to marry me. What did I want to do? Where would be the right place? How could I do this? I don't even have a ring. I don't have the money to buy a ring. What am I going to do? How are we going to make this work? How do we even have the time to get married? Can I get married by a chaplain on base? Is that how it works? I had no idea. I have never thought of these things in my life. So I never considered, how do I want to ask her to marry me? Things like that. It was an exciting new adventure. It was me allowing myself to accept the love that I was receiving, and it opened up this whole new thing.
So you didn't do the classic, like, drop to one knee, will you marry me? I think that's what I did.
No, I did not do that. I was so overwhelmed with what I wanted to do and how to ask her to marry me that I ended up asking her in such a mundane, silly way that
I remember his speech. How I remember this is a week prior from asking me, he came back from one of his D&D sessions, and I bought him a bunch of dices and the little board to roll them on. And he was showing it to his friends, and he was telling me how, yeah, they were telling me to, wife you up. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. So when are you going to try to wife me up? He was like...
She actually said that. She said that.
Again, I like knowing
So when
things.
are you going to wife me up?
I like knowing things. And he's like, are your parents traditional? I'm like, yes. He's like, okay. I'm like, okay. That was the end of the conversation. And then the next week, I was just laying on his lap again and was like, so when are you popping the question? And he was like, well, when the sun is shining on the right moment, will you marry me? I'm like, yeah, I will. And we were wearing our onesies. By the way, we were wearing like onesies at this time, and we're like, yo, let's do it. Let's get married.
We just got matching jammies.
Yeah, you did? Is it Christmas?
We have 3 now.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas patterns for your matching onesies, or just...
Well, they're our snow suit thermal layers. It's the ninja thermal suits.
That's so cool.
I have daisies.
Yeah, hers is mint daisy. And mine is blue pterodactyls.
Blue pterodactyls?
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's cool. I love that. So yeah, we were laying on our small couch at the time. My head was laying on her lap. And yeah, that's how it ended up happening. I didn't get down on one knee, but I did need to talk to her parents. So I'm not a big fan of asking parents permission to marry. I'm not a big fan of that, because everybody is their own person and they have the right to do whatever they want to do. You don't need anybody's permission to do anything. You just have to suffer the consequences of whatever your actions are. I called and wanted their blessing, yes. But I didn't exactly word it like that. I called it, my intention to call was to tell them my intentions on what I was doing with their daughter. Something like that. I called them to tell them my intent to marry.
They still haven't met him in person at this point still. They haven't met him in person yet.
Yeah.
And my dad was crying on the phone.
Aw.
Oh, yeah.
He was crying.
Oh, yeah.
I made her mom cry.
You made her mom cry?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I was so worried when we had already agreed that we were going to get married, but he was like, I'm going to ask your father first. And I was like, he's not the one that you ask. You ask my mom. He's going to say yes. She's probably going to shut you down. It's like, it's not going to happen. She's not going to give you her blessing. And we went to like a Mexican restaurant, and I had to go to the bank or something down their street. So I walked over, and he asked my dad. My dad said the same thing. He's like, I'm not the one to ask. You got to ask my wife.
It was like, I like you, but she's in charge.
Yeah. So if you want to, I don't know what happened after that. Aaron, if you want to tell your story of popping the question.
Popping the question. Insofar as talking to Minerva, I was like, I would like your blessing because I intend to marry your daughter. We make each other very happy, and we're willing to make a relationship work. And she was like, she's got to go to college. And I was like, I'm not going to tell her she can't go to college. And she was like, promise? Like, dude,
Pinky promise.
I am not going to tell your daughter what to do except when she tells me that I can.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
I mean, that works out really well, though.
I've never seen my mom cry, like ever. And when we left, I was like, oh my God, she has emotions? This is wild to me. I didn't know she knew how to cry.
This is something new and unique.
Yeah.
We've been able to talk a lot about, like, we went more in depth with how our relationship started and evolved and how we got to the point where we are now married. On our third episode, we decided to talk about our marriages. Did you, because I know both of you have listened to the episode, what did you two hear in that episode that was like, they did that wrong? Or
Not how I remember that happening.
Nicole?
yeah.
Oh, I want to hear Britt's story.
Mine isn't too crazy. When he mentioned about the dishes. Okay, hold on. The dishes. The way he explained it was how he had been cooking for hours, had been cleaning for hours, and he was just too tired. He didn't mention that I also cooked for hours and cleaned for hours with him, and I was exhausted. But I was slowly feeling like I was getting a fever. My back was hurting. I was just ready to just sit for a minute. And I had been doing the dishes a few days straight because, of course, he's working. I don't mind doing the dishes when it's at home because it's not really a chore. But that day, I'm just like, nah, I can't do it today. So we were just staring at it together. I'm like, man, that's a lot of dishes. And I'm so tired and I feel sick. And he's like, yeah. Pats my back like I'm one of his bros, then walks away. But he didn't mention that, did he? Nah. No.
Okay. But to be fair, I forgot all about that back pat part.
It was the back patting.
I think you told that part in the story.
Well,
In the story, you were like, I was so tired, and she was complaining about being tired. So I was like, I understand. And you had no idea she was asking for help.
yeah. So whenever it comes down to like remembering that moment, I remember the back pat because she has made sure to remind me about the back pat. But, that's not the first thing. I was just tired. I didn't realize she was hinting for me to do the dishes. I thought we could just leave it alone until tomorrow, maybe. Yeah. So I did not pick up on that. That was my bad.
I also dropped the dishes signal.
Yeah, you did.
It's easy to drop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what story have I told wrong?
The floors, the polyurethane. I mean, you told
Okay.
You told it all right.
From
All
my
right.
perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. I was also tired because I had worked all day and we were sanding the floors of our house like crazy. And he's got the big old thing and I've got the little baby sander to get those edges. And I remember, I think I came back to the house on my break and just sanded.
Yep.
But I remember I told you, finish up the sanding, we sweep everything up, let's go ahead, put the polyurethane down in this one room that just needs it. Let's just get it done before we move our stuff in, especially with the animals because of all the dust. And you're like, yeah, cool. That was like 2 days before. And then I get home, the bed's getting set up, and I'm like, wait, what is happening? Like, we have to do this thing first. And you're like, I really want to sleep in my bed. Like, yeah, but we need to do this. This is something that needs to get done. We already agreed. Yeah, I can't think of exactly how that conversation went, but I remember being so frustrated because I worked so hard on those damn floors because I expected him to get done by the time I got home, and it just wasn't. And we had a tiff.
We did.
We did have a tiff.
I don't know anything about polyurethane floors, but I do know a thing or two about building a bed. And if I had to pick between which one I would rather do, I think I would rather build a bed. Just for future reference, wife, in case you...
But there was just one more room left. Might
Yes.
as well get it done.
One room.
I don't get it.
We did the whole house. It's just the one.
Just one more room.
Was out of gas.
I was too. We were both out of gas, and we got very upset about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think marriage is very difficult sometimes. And I do think that we talk about our marriage in the sense of like the four of us, we talk about our marriages in the way that's like, it doesn't sound difficult, right? You guys had an argument while trying to get your house set up. But it's like some people have an argument in their relationship every single day. There are some topics that couples just cannot stand having as a conversation with their significant other. Do you guys have anything like that? Like, is there something you two just avoid talking about with each other because you know it's going to be an argument?
So I wouldn't say that we avoid it. We do try to talk about it, especially because it's a huge thing for me. But a very difficult topic for us, and we just experienced this a couple weeks ago, is talking about finances. So we grew up and we see finances in a very different light. I'm very big on budgeting right now. You know, I want to make sure I have money to pay the bills, do all of the subscriptions, whatever needs to get done. You know, the dogs, cats, make sure that they have food. And then also have some play money if I want to go on Amazon and buy a day bed or something. And I can't even remember what the conversation was about anymore. But finances is so difficult for us because we have such very different perspectives on it, and we just don't mesh. We forget how to communicate in those conversations, that it just seems like a loop every time we talk about it. What's so great about Aaron and I's relationship is how we have conflict resolution, even in those difficult conversations where like we just need to take a break because we're just being mean towards each other now. And one thing that I try really hard to do in any conflict, not just finances, but anytime we're having like a disagreement and I feel bad or I just really want to hold my husband, is I'll go to wherever he is, I'll grab his hands, look in his eyes, and then I'll give him the biggest hug. I'll hug him for however long, just to let him know, you know, yes, we had this disagreement, we had this argument, but I also still really love you, and this is how I'm going to show you. But
we hug with our hearts, and everyone who's ever hugged us knows that. But yeah, we have a really hard time talking about finances because, as people are going to hear in episode 12 with my mother, we're totally fine with going without, and that doesn't frighten us. Our financial trauma led to a liberative nihilism where we're like, it's okay if I am broke and hungry and don't have a plate. Like I'll figure it out. Whereas, unfortunately, those situations have been a little more traumatic for my wife. So she needs to be sure that everything is taken care of. Whereas I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll be fine. She's like, no, I have to worry about it. And that makes me panic because then I start worrying about it.
How about you guys? What's a difficult topic for you guys?
For me, it was when this was a topic that Tim would repeatedly shut down. And I always try to see his perspective, but like it's just kept bothering me because here I am trying to. So the topic itself is vaping and drinking. And when I first got there, I was very shocked because on FaceTime, you can't tell how much he's drinking or how much he's smoking. You can hide a lot on FaceTime. So when I got there, is this okay to share first, babe? I think because you shared about Trulies on episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when I first got there, like my first week there, he was drinking at least 6 cans of Trulies and 2 glasses of vodka. It was actually every single day. And I was very surprised because I thought, well, my family, didn't drink or smoke, so maybe this is normal. Maybe I shouldn't be bothered. Until one day he sat me down. He's like, since you've been here, has there been an issue? Have you been uncomfortable? I'm like, Well, you've been on the phone a lot whenever we're trying to eat. I would completely forget about the drinking because I really thought this was normal. And he's like, okay, I'll stop that. How about my drinking? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty excessive. And so do you want to take over, babe?
So in comparison, right? I was used to drinking about a fifth almost every day. I drank a lot. And during my relationship with Britt, before she ever even came out there, I thought I was doing really good at cutting back on how much. Now, again, it's fascinating because I got an outside perspective on it from her. I was still drinking every day, even if I'm drinking like Trulies instead of a fifth of vodka every day. I'm like, wow, I'm only having like 4 beers. Like, it's nothing crazy. And she was like, yeah, but you're doing that every day. By the end of the week, you're at 30 some beers, and it's not healthy. And I was like, oh, huh. Yeah, that might be bad. So when it came to like drinking, it was something that I was more willing to work on. And I knew it was a problem, and I knew I couldn't keep doing that if I wanted to have a real future with my soon to be wife at this point. So that was something that we talked through a lot. But vaping, that was a topic for the longest time. I never wanted to discuss it. I didn't want to talk about quitting. I would say every now and then, yeah, one day I would like to quit, but not right now. I'm not ready to quit vaping. And I knew how difficult it was to quit. And I wasn't mentally ready, physically ready, nothing. Like I was not going to. I had no end in sight for quitting on vaping. Until August of this year, I decided to embark on a fitness journey. I felt as if I had done a lot of focusing on my spirituality over the past couple of years, and a lot on my mental health more so in the past year. And I realized from our conversations, Aaron, that my triangle was failing on the physical side. So I needed to start focusing on that so I can keep myself the peak Tim that I can be. So I embarked on a fitness journey, and I realized pretty quickly into that my goals for running that I was trying to train for a 12K and eventually a marathon. And I realized vaping was counterintuitive to that. So if I'm going to become the best version of myself, the best version of myself doesn't vape. And that was when I needed to cut it out.
And that was a pretty lengthy process for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm still chewing nicotine gum, and it's been since September. So I haven't even completely cut out the nicotine, but I've cut out how much I'm ingesting. Like I don't just, oh God, every 5 minutes. Like, babe, tell them how bad it was with my vaping. Seriously.
These are moments where he doesn't even remember. And I remember it because his vape was so damn loud. It always woke me up. I'm sleeping and then suddenly I hear, he would take deep inhales in his sleep. I will look over and he's like reaching, looking for it on the table, and then he'll smoke and then like cradle it to his chest. As he's sleeping, I'm like, do I reach for it? Nah. He's awake. No. I asked him the next day, he was asleep. He doesn't even remember it. So I'm like, okay, I think we need to talk.
You don't take it from him.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, I think we need to talk.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm going through my own struggles. At the time, I wanted to grow with him because I think growing with your significant other is so beautiful. Because I've seen relationships where one is growing and the other one is just refusing to grow with them to be a better version of themselves, knowing there is that chance to grow. And I remember one night where he drank a lot, and the next day I sat him down, I'm like, hey, I really think you need to slow it down because here I am trying to better myself and you haven't tried. And every time I want to talk about this with you, you drop the topic and I'm feeling really bad. And that's, I think, is when he realized, yeah, he needs to stop drinking. He still continued vaping at this time, but at that moment, the drinking was the main focus.
Yeah, that was the first step on the long road of getting myself to a point where I can comfortably understand how much I'm ingesting when it comes to alcohol, how frequently I'm ingesting alcohol, and just getting a better, healthier relationship with that. I know a lot of people, especially when it comes to like actual diagnosed alcoholics and people who alcohol takes them to a really bad place, like our friend Mike. Some people, they can't drink alcohol ever again. And I thought that was going to be me. I really did. I was fully ready for it whenever I started on that journey. And I realized that I am able to ingest alcohol because I can control how much I do. It's very limited. And I don't really have that want. Once I realized that want was gone, I was like, oh, this was a symptom of a bigger problem, not the problem itself. And I came to terms with what my problem was. Well, not come to terms. I'm still working on that, which is something we still haven't discussed on this podcast. I was able to at least fix that part of the problem and other smaller issues. So, yeah, I don't know if any of that makes sense.
Well, we are getting tight on time. Do we want to finish with some plugs?
Yeah. So you guys have an exciting announcement, right?
Do we?
We do.
Oh.
We are doing shirts. Shane over at Trinidad is happy with his alpha and beta testing. He's still going to send out his final trials to us to make sure we're happy with them. But they're placing a bulk order. So they're going to start producing. So we're going to find out what site they're going to go through for their purchasing system. But even if it ends up with everyone reaching out to Shane at Trinidad on Facebook and saying, I'd like a large Trinidad, that's what it's going to be. But we're excited to finally have merchandise to share with the people who are coming on this journey with us. And we wanted to choose people that were close to us, and that happens to be Shane at Trinidad. Amazing guy. Sarah, I grew up with her as one of my moms, who's Shane's partner, and the business is beautiful. Shane's an incredible artist. We're really stoked to be working with him and Sarah, and to finally have a revenue source to legitimize this, to be able to start either a 501c3 or a PLLC, depending on how we want to structure the NSLP organization. But what do you have going on, Britt?
I have my own coffee shop, as everyone knows, BB's Coffee. How do you call it, Aaron?
Well, that's some BBC magic.
There we go. There it is. During this holiday season and into January, I'm going to be hosting a special giveaway. So with every purchase, you will automatically be entered to win a free bag of coffee of your choice. The drawing will take place after January 10, 2024. So buy your coffees, guys. You might win a free one on January.
Get you some beans.
I think by the time this episode comes out, there's still going to be almost 2 weeks left of your giveaway. So to any of our listeners, if you've already bought coffee during this giveaway, you're already entered. If you want to be entered into this giveaway, all you have to do is buy a bag of coffee. It could be the sampler pack. It could be your new favorite, whether it's pecan pie, the peppermint that's going to be out. Or if you're a tea lover, well, BB's Coffee has tea now. So whatever you want to find yourself purchasing for this holiday season or after the holiday season, about time frame, then make your way over to bbscoffee.com and see what you want.
And one thing that's really worth mentioning is your partner.
Yes.
Whenever you started your company, you didn't just say, I want to do this for me. You said, there's a very specific community that is near and dear to my heart that I want to work with. And that's Four Paws for Ability, which is an organization that helps veterans and children with disabilities. We aren't blowing things out of the water with NSLP or BBC at this time, but every single thing that we're doing is going back into investing in people and the community. So for you, that's helping veterans and children. So you want to talk about your partner?
Yeah, you basically said everything that I want to say about them. So with every bag sold, a donation goes straight to For Paws for Ability. And like you said, when I wanted to create my own shop, I wanted to have a cause. And when I found For Paws, I immediately knew this was it. This is the one I want to work with.
And what's incredible about For Paws is, I don't think we've said it exactly, but they help the children and the veterans in need by training service dogs. So it's kind of it's an attack on three fronts here. We have animals that get trained and get loving homes. We have veterans who have put their bodies and lives on the line for freedom and everybody here that lives in America. And we also have children who probably they have had a rough go at it from the very beginning. Yeah, it's an incredible organization. They do have a Twitter as well, or X, formerly known as Twitter. If you want to follow them and just see what they're doing in general, they are on the NSLP Twitter. If you don't follow it or see any of our social medias, you can follow us there and see who we're following and what we're putting out and what we're talking about.
Do you want to ask that closing question, Britt?
Yeah, I was going to ask Tim and Aaron, during the course of your relationship, have you discovered something new about your partner? And how did this realization enhance your relationship or change your perspective of your relationship?
That is a great question. One thing that I learned about you during our relationship is just how strong you really are. I knew that you were a strong person. I knew that you were incredible, and all the most loving things that I can possibly imagine I could insert at this juncture. But seeing you deal with your ED and how much you were fighting and making sure that you could conquer it to the best of your ability, that was something I got to see happen in real time. I already knew that you were a strong woman, but the amount of strength that you must have had in order to face this, it's blown me away. I would say that's the biggest thing. That's what I've learned about you during our relationship, during our marriage. And I'm still in awe of it to this day.
Thanks, babe. I'm not crying, you're crying.
Unfortunately, I can't tell a love story like Tim because my wife didn't write this question.
Fair enough.
It's not so much that I've learned anything about you. It's just every day I get to experience who you are. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. I'm really glad that you let me be your partner every day. I know some days that's a lot of work. I'm glad that you think it's work worth doing. I've also felt like I didn't deserve the love that's coming my way. But whenever you realize that everything that you're putting out in the universe, you're just giving to yourself, you realize that you do deserve that love because that's what you're giving to your partner. So they're just reciprocating. As Melissa would say, they're just reflecting our humanity back on us. And for me, it's worth the rest of my life to be able to do that perfectly with one person. I'm just really glad that every day I get to show you that it's okay to be vulnerable and to be you, and that I'm still going to love you because you're worth that.
I love you too.
So cute. Oh, I love that. So, Tim.
We love love.
Tim, Aaron, thank you for joining us.
And a huge thanks to you, listeners.
This has been Brittany.
And Nicole.
A huge thank you to Hyland Markle for the original music.
Share this episode with a friend.
Or someone who could benefit from it.
Leave a comment below if there's a topic you want to hear our take on.
All pertinent links can be found in the episode description.
Be good to yourselves and each other.
We love you.
Peace.